Hello and welcome to another Niagara video in my Niagara video series where it's about all things Niagara. My name is Charles Johnson, lead trainer and technical engineer at Lynxspring. Today we're going to talk about history tools. Specifically, we're going to talk about how to set up a history group. Then we're going to talk about how to set up history nav shortcuts. And then we're going to perform something called a BQL history rollup query. And so what are history groups? Well, they allow us to set up an alternative navigation of our nav tree based upon history properties. These history properties are set by adding slots to the history config extension, which is located on the history's property sheet view. Both slot names and values are important to keep consistent. In all cases, capitalization counts. They have to use the same capitalization in order for it to match. Um, just make sure that that's pretty vital when you're doing this. So please be mindful of how you are typing this stuff. So how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to work in my BQL folder, and I've got some meters here, and as you know, I've had some histories here. Well, in order to add the properties that I'm thinking of, it's going to be called metadata. So we understand that metadata is data about data or characteristics about data, much like in tagging. We're going to be using this to group our histories. Well, how are we going to add this metadata to our histories? Well, we're going to right click on our config space, go to views and metadata browser. And now I'm going to go ahead and in my browser, go to my BQL folder and my meters and my submeters. Now this probably takes the longest to do out of everything here, but if you expand all your histories, do this right here. I'm going to show you all of them instead of just a few, because I don't have that many. But this is great to do, especially if you're doing some kind of metering. Or even if you wanted to group space temperature sensors together, any other kind of values like that. Now, I have a numeric interval history here as well, and I'm going to be showing you the history rollup using that. But anyway, continue and expand everything till you get to the history config. And when you get to the history config, now this is where we can add the metadata. So for all my ramp blocks, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select them all, or select the history config of all my ramp blocks. And I'm going to add some metadata here. And the first thing I'm going to add is building, all lowercase, and it's going to be the new type Baja string. So it allows me to add text to this value. And I'm going to name this building 1. So now I've added the building 1 metadata tag to my ramp blocks. Now in my random, let's see, random, 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 random. I'm going to make sure that this is my building 2. So again, I'm going to add building. And now I'm going to say building 2. And as you may have guessed it, I'm going to take all my sine waves and I'm going to go ahead and add the building metadata to this. And I don't know if you can guess this. However, it is going to be building 3. So building 3. And we're going to hit OK. So now that we have all these for building 1, building 2, building 3, it'd be kind of nice to know if these had specific floors. Well, luckily for us, all of our submeters are going to be on the second floor of every building. And I know those are just all the submeters by doing that. So you can see that they're actually indented just a little more. But anyway, go ahead and grab all these. Oop, not grab that one. Just grab 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. All right, so I'm going to add some more metadata to these. And this metadata is now going to be, you guessed it, floor. And it's going to be floor 2. And these are going to be floor 1. So now that I have floor 1 and floor 2, let's go ahead now and group these in the histories. Well, how do we do this? Well, we're going to go ahead and expand our services, and we're going to expand our history service, and we're going to just double click on the history groupings. And I'm going to select new and a history group. And now I'm going to name this meter data. And I'm going to sort this by two things. 1, building, and 2, floor. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. So now if I go to my history node, I can see my meter data has now been broken down into building 1, building 2, and building 3, first floor and second floor. Now that we've separated or grouped all of our meters together, let's go ahead and add some history nav shortcuts to our meters folder. That way we can actually click on the meters folder, go in and see what histories we have. So to do this, I'm going to go to my history palette. I'm going to drag in my history nav shortcuts. And I'm just going to drag it in right into the meters folder. And the first one is going to be building 1 data, then building 2 data, and then building 3 data. So when I do this, it brings up everything that I have. Well, that's not quite right. Well, how do we change this? Well, luckily, in the history nav shortcut, we can go ahead and right click and go to Views, AX Property Sheet. And here, this is where we can do a predicate to only show what we have in our building. So the predicate would be where building equals building 1, and hit enter. And when I do, now it brings up only the histories that are in my building 1. Now, if I want to do this here, I can go to building 2, where building equals building 2, and same thing for building 3, where building equals building 3, and hit save. So now, building 2 data is in building 2, building 3 data is in building 3. The last thing that I want to show you now is the history rollup. So with the history rollup, we have the ability to really manipulate numeric histories with a special BQL query, which is called a history rollup. So this is going to provide some aggregating math functions based on the stored historical records. We can find the count, min, max, average, and sum. So to do this, let's go ahead and go to our history node. And we're going to go in the default here. And we're going to go to this meters ramp rollup. And I'm going to double click this to bring up the chart. Now, in order to insert the ord right here, because we need to type in some queries and whatnot, um, this here is Control L. And remember, if you were watching my BQL uh, video, my demonstration of it, you will know that this inserts the current ord. I'm going to go ahead and expand this here. And now, if I type in question mark, period, equals last 7 days, semicolon, delta equals false, and we hit enter, what is this going to bring us? Well, crap. Just brings us to the same chart, doesn't it? Well, that's kind of strange. However, now if we add the roll up by going right here and typing in history, colon, I'm sorry, we need to do this as a BQL. BQL, you see I've done this a little bit before, but history, colon, history roll up, dot roll up, history, colon, roll up, interval, daily. And now if I hit enter, I get the following ord below. So notice now this table only gives us the last 7 days, and it gives us the count number of records. It brings us the min, max, average, and sum of all the values. Now we could take this step further and we can refine the table to only show parts that we want by appending another BQL select at the end of the ord. So we can do, like timestamp date as date, timestamp weekday as day, and the sum total, or as the sum as total. So that way we can find anything that we may need. So if we need to do this, let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and add another BQL query at the end. So we're adding query upon query. So now if I do BQL colon select, let me see here. Yeah, BQL select timestamp dot date as date, timestamp dot weekday as day, and sum as total. Now, I know that that is quite a bit here, but you can see the whole thing here, and I'll go ahead and leave it up for a moment so you can go ahead and type it out. Of course, also, if you wanted to pause the video here, you certainly could do that. Okay, so now we can see what this brings here. Now we have aliased some columns. We have the date, we have the day, and we have the total. So we can actually change this even more if we wanted to. So for example, if I do Control L, and instead of saying delta equals false, let's see what happens when we see delta equals true. Now it only shows the difference. And if I go back to this being true, or this being false, sorry. We can see there. Now, what if I want to change this instead of saying the last 7 days? What if I wanted to do year to date? Now, if I go year to date, it literally brings me every single one here. So there are a variety of things that we can do year to date, last month. You can even do this on, a Boolean history if you wanted to see what happens there as well. So that's all I have for you today. Hopefully, this gives you a little more insight on some of the history tools that we have, and I'll see you on the next one.